the stage the cast of The Lost Boys. Please welcome Alex Winter, Jason Patrick, Jameson Newlander, Chance Michael Corbett, and last but certainly not least, Willie Worth. This movie several times before you actually took the role. And so how did it come that you finally were convinced?
Well, Joel was very convincing. People ask that all the time because they say the same thing. Why would you ever turn down Lost Boys? It's just you have to understand there was no Lost Boys in 1986. This was just a really cheesy little teen vampire script that was not good. And people flying around and teeth and all that stuff. So Joel made it bigger and he had different ideas. And again, the makeup was brand new, the effects, the music, all those things were him talking about what he wanted it to be, which was very different than any of these sort of teen horror movies were at that time. So, eventually he wore me down, and I heard Alex was going to be in, and he was cute. Really cute back then. He was really cute.
So Mark,
Funny, a little bit funnier.
Marco was the cute one, like vampirism and teenage. I have a teenager, so yes.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that might have been what. I feel like either I heard that or I just made that up in my head that Joel was probably like, look at teenagers. I mean, they act like vampires. They sleep all day. They party all night. Let's do it. Let's make that. Let's draw the connection. I mean, kind of like he did with the bridge scene. Them hanging from the bridge. It's like there's that expression. If your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it? So guess what? Let's try it. Let's put it out there. Let's illustrate it for you with this vampire context. I thought that was brilliant.
So once you guys saw the movie, what did you think? Were your jaws on the floor? I mean, you obviously knew you had to be making something that was pretty good. I mean, based on just what Joel was doing and how he had changed it and everything. But were you kind of like, were you blown away, or were you like, well, this is a pretty good movie, or how did you feel?
Well, hi everybody. So we went to the premiere, and I had a bunch of my family, and it was the first thing I'd ever done. And Laddie had 2 words, not lines, right? Star, star. So when your name's in the credits, like you're billing, starring, Jason Patrick, Diane Louise, I thought, I was pretty low, on the totem pole, and then, People Are Strange are playing, and then it says also starring Chance Michael Corbett. I mean, we stood up, we're, cheering. And watching that movie at that premiere, we walked out, the doors don't just kind of open. It's the first thing I'd ever done. They kind of slam, open when you're afforded, the opportunity to do a movie like this. And I thought it was awesome, but I looked at it, when I got a little older, through a different lens. I was 10 years old, when I made it. And I can see why now, 38, 39 years, however long it is that we're still here, sort of talking about it, because like Billy said, it's got sort of everything. It's not a horror film, it's not a comedy, it's,
A wonderful movie with Rachel Ward that was just awesome. But did you guys, did people go, oh, so Lost Boys got casting people? Did that happen after that?
I have no idea.
I mean, for me, I was approached by some really top-notch agents at the time, but I didn't leave to go with them. But yeah, we were noticed. It was definitely made a splash inside the Hollywood, world, and I think it's still, amazing that it's alive, and the opportunities have come about since you guys have come out to these events. We've all gotten to know each other a lot better, and it's just been a blessing, the whole thing from day one until now. It's a gift. It's a blessing.
I can say 100% for me. It opened the doors, and I went, like 2 auditions a month to 5, 6 a day, because they saw that you played well on screen, and so you at least afforded some opportunities to go out for parts that otherwise wouldn't have if I wasn't sort of lucked into this role. I mean, I had no acting chops, and when I went in, I was the only kid. There was 200 kids there, auditioning for Laddie. I had long hair, so that helped, and yeah, and after that, it literally slammed the door open for me. So, to question you, for sure.
Now, I'm going to ask him one more, but if you guys want to start lining up to ask your questions, we can do that.
Hello everyone, my name is Michelle. I live here in Pensacola, Florida, and I'm sure you won't recognize me as someone who greeted you at the airport on Thursday night. A girl with short platinum hair. Hello again. I don't really have a question so much as I just want to make some commentary on the Lost Boys film and the legacy that you have left. I'm going to date myself. I was a sophomore in high school when this film came out, so I related to it very, very greatly as a teenager, but also having a massive crush on every single one of you back then and to this very day, so you better believe it was very nerve-wracking to meet you at the airport. One of the things I would like to comment on is that the quote from the film, "Never invite a vampire into your house, you silly boy, it renders you powerless," has stuck with me all these years, and now the Oscar-nominated film Sinners, which I'm sure many of you have seen, that quote was ringing through my head the entire time that I was watching the film, and I understood that movie because of Lost Boys and because of that quote. And so I just want to thank all of you for being part of such a memorable thing for my whole life that helps me understand a big film that's in our legacy, right in our timeline right now. And there's a Broadway musical coming up that I'll have to now go see, thanks to all of you. So just thank you all.
Thank you, Miss Edie.
What's up?
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Go ahead and ask your question.
So the question for Jason Patrick, I know that one scene where you're eating, before you get initiated, it always got me so confused when I had to rewatch the film the other night. Did you really eat the maggots, or was it really good? I've always wondered that because it keeps switching scenes, so I couldn't tell.
I think you got to take a look at that again. I don't know. I think it's an illusion. Did I actually eat maggots? No.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, of course. But no. I think for Michael that's David just fucking with him a little bit. But then again, I really couldn't tell you.
Okay. Yeah, that scene, when I was in that scene in the background, I didn't know what the hell was going on either. They're talking about maggots and worms, and I think Brooke had gotten the stone beforehand, and I'm like, what are they talking about until I saw it?
right. Okay.
Everyone.
Hello.
I got a quick question. You know how we have crossovers in media with different franchises? So if you could pick any vampire franchise to have a crossover with, which one would you pick?
You stumped us, buddy.
Do we have any more?
Jim Jarmusch one? Only Lovers Left Alive. I say that. That's cool too.
Throw my support behind that.
Anamorphic lenses, the widescreen lenses that we used on Lost Boys, are the literally the same set of lenses we used on Bill and Ted 1. Yeah, and they weren't easy to get. They were expensive. And both those movies, neither of those movies were that expensive. I remember looking at the DP Tim Surstead on Bill and Ted. It was like, oh, we literally just got Chapman's lenses for this. It's kind of cool. I was like, why are you shooting Bill and Ted anamorphic? You're out of your mind. Can you just give us more money instead?
Really have a question, but it was kind of more of like a statement of what they did earlier. So, Lost Boys for us growing up, it was like such an iconic movie between me and my brother. And so I came here today to tell you guys thank you. My brother passed away last year, and this you guys come in here, like we used to go to Pensacon like every year. And so when I saw y'all were coming, I'm really nervous right now. But I wanted to tell y'all how special it is, like for my brother. Rush, Bill and Ted's, like that era freaked, and like everything, like this generation of movies was like the best thing you could grow up with. Like they don't have that these days. And me and my brother, we grew up on y'all, man. We love it. So
Thank you.
yeah,
It means a lot.
I came here today to tell you guys that.
Thank you.
And made a lot of great documentaries in addition to making stuff like Freaked. Did you learn things from Joel Schumacher on that set and from the director on that set?
I learned a lot. I mean, Mike Chapman, I think, hated my guts. He's like, get that kid out of here. He's like, the kid. He always called me, the kid, get this kid out of here. I followed Mike Chapman around everywhere. I actually dropped out of NYU Film School to do Lost Boys. Joel convinced me to do that, to put on chaps and the fake mullet. Not say very much. I mean, I learned on every set. So, but that was just such an incredible range of talent. And I learned a lot from Joel. I talked to him about that a lot afterwards. It's just, you know, his vision, the way he had such a holistic vision for what he wanted to do and the dedication he had to that, but then the ability to have both a controlled vision and being genuinely collaborative, because so many people were bringing, like what Jason brought to the movie was so significant, like what people were bringing was, and he was letting that happen because he knew it would make the movie better. I think that's the mark of a really good director, to have that sense of control, but also enough confidence that you let people who know better than you lead where they need to lead. That famous shot now of like the four of us standing up, looking down at him on his bike. We shot it in that stage, and Michael was not having it. Like he was not into what Joel was. I mean, it was just one of these friction things between director and DP. But he's like, I don't like this setup. This setup is TV. It's bullshit. I don't want to shoot it like this. And he worked it, and he worked it, and he worked it. So we figured out this very specific crane move. And you watch it now, and you just feel like, oh, of course that's how you shoot it. You know what I mean? It's a perfect movie. It's like, of course you'd have this beautiful shot. I remember thinking how hard it was for Michael to figure that one shot out. So that's what every day was like. And it wasn't an easy shoot. It was a long shoot. It was a hard shoot. It was often stressful. We'd get into it. I bickered with Joel on the bridge scene that night. Like, you know, just that was how the whole bombs away thing. I was like, why aren't we saying anything? We should fucking say something. I don't want to stand here like at least let me improvise something. So it was like that. It wasn't like we were arguing because we were all after making this thing good, and so we got along, but it wasn't easy, and it wasn't like, oh, this is going to be great. And Joel was getting fought by the studio the whole time. They didn't know what the hell he was doing, and so he was under fire. And honestly, that's probably how most movies are that people love and feel like perfect movies. They're hard. And they're a flyer. They could go wrong in all these different ways.
I mean, the bridge scene has become iconic. I mean, so how long did you guys have to actually hang on to anything? Nothing?
It was like stuff, man. We did like one.
Yeah.
No, there was like a platform beneath us.
Yeah. And then they rebuilt it on the stage, and we did some of it. Yeah.
That's a great scene. I mean, really.
Yeah, but like for example, that is what I can't tell how many people these cons have that silhouette tattooed or have jewelry, and you know the movies become part of the iconic in the culture when certain visual things someone has or certain lines. You know, someone says they're noodles, everyone knows what you're talking about, right? You know, if you're going to need a bigger boat, you know what that is, and this is hit in that cultural landscape in that way.
So, how is it to not have lines, but be able to, you know, radiate out that kind of vibe? Because it really is a heavy-duty vibe.
I can tell you, so for myself, I was the youngest, I was 19 years old. So going into a movie this big, some of the were seasoned, they kind of knew what to expect. I certainly didn't. And I went into it not knowing, I didn't read the script at all. In our first scene with Laddie, this is where Joel really, I mean, any other director, I could have maybe went inside a shell. So the first scene that I ever shot on anything I'd ever done was when Michael and Sam were running after the nut because the vampires are coming to the house. guards, and so I think it's Starr and Jameson were standing and they're yelling at them to come back. And if you go back and look, you'll see me laughing. We're supposed to be terrified and horrified. Joel was brilliant, instead of reprimanding me or correcting me, which could have made me go into a little shell, he just figured out how to work the camera and edit through it, and it really set off the tone specifically for me, and on where I knew Joel would protect me in not knowing exactly what to do. And Billy says, great, he said, Joel said the camera will find you, and he was really good at doing that, because like I said, I was green. I didn't know exactly. I'm probably staring directly in the camera, and you can't do that, right? But I was. And Joel was very giving in that way, specifically to me, and I felt like that with everybody else. But I was also the youngest, so I was protected a little bit.
As you know, like Greg Cannons, I believe that's his name, the way he developed the sexy and kind of sleeker vampire look, and that went on to like things like Buffy Vampire Slayer, that just like really iconic look. But not only that, in the 80s, the foam and latex was used, but like the contacts were very thick and different from now. So just any kind of commentary on the special effects makeup you guys would do?
There was a lot of experimentation with more elaborate makeup before it got to that. Cameron was a genius, and it also was practical. The movie wasn't a huge budget, and they didn't want to spend gobs of time with us sitting in chairs getting prosthetics done, which in those days, more so than today, took a really long time. It can take time now, but it really took a lot of time then. And a lot of the guys that I worked with on Freaked had worked on Lost Boys, because it was a big show at that time. So Greg is very innovative, but it wasn't just Greg. There were a lot of really innovative people. Neil was on that show. He's one of the grandmasters of makeup. Bill Corso, a lot of really now Oscar-winning, very famous designers worked on that show. But it was still early in a lot of ways. The content was very painful, and we couldn't wear them that long. They would dry your eyes out very quickly, and they encompassed a lot of your eye, which they don't anymore. Two Corys kicked a bunch of dirt into my face and scratched my cornea and sent me to the hospital because of that. But it was amazing to work in, but they didn't know. They were doing life casts for us early on, and there was all this more. I was looking at busts with much more radical makeup on it that then got reduced and reduced and reduced. It's a really effective design. It's one of those things about movie making where practicality often forces you to do something more inventive. So that's what happened, because Joel was like, I don't want to spend, what's the fastest we can get these guys into this makeup? He's like, well, I can do very little, just cheeks, forehead, and teeth, which is essentially all we had. And then you look at it and you're like, wow, that's an amazing, like in that fire scene when we transform, it is like, holy shit. But there's so little actually there, just a little bit of stuff going on. So it was fun for me, because I love prosthetics. It was a fun show to work on, because less can be more.
His backstory is transitioning into a vampire, and Laddie's character, you see his picture on the milk carton, so you know he's fairly recently a vampire. But the other vampires, how long have you been vampires? How did you become a vampire? When were you turned? Etc., etc. Would you like to make a speculation as to how your character became a vampire?
I'm good. There is some stuff on YouTube now where they actually go into a backstory. I think it's AI fan fiction, but it was pretty interesting. I think my backstory, Chance's backstory, how we all came about. But I think a lot of fan fiction have done that as well. It's interesting, but for me, working on this, I didn't really, go into that too much. It's just enough just to try to be present in this film without doing deeper homework that I don't think necessarily was had to be done for me. I put that jacket on and felt, I bonded with Brooke. We became really close, and we had the same agent. And, just connecting to the chant on the back of my body, it gave me something to do, put me in the moment. But yeah, that's a good question.
Yes, sir.
You guys said that what ended up on the screen, the original script, was absolutely terrible. Did they send it to a script doctor? Did they have daily rewrites for you? Or did Joel just say, I got something up here and trust the process?
Just looking at what the scenes were, what was going on, and I would personally, again, I started film, I turned 20 on the movie, but so the fact that this director was saying, look, I'm going to let you create this character, I'm going to let you create these relationships, write a lot of your dialogue, that was an amazing thing for a studio movie, a lot of pressure too. But I think that was what, the idea that it started in that seriousness meant that everyone could contribute. You'd look at, okay, what is this scene supposed to be about? What's not good? That's it. You have an idea, Joel's a pretty good writer too. So every day was a new ball of things. And not just in dialogue, but because there were practical concerns with effects that haven't been done before. And there was certainly no CGI and all that stuff. So sometimes the scene would have to be rewritten for what we physically could do, and how you would end up doing that, and then that mixed with whatever the visual thing that Joel wanted. So I will say, it was a constant moving ball of stuff that did keep you interested. And we also had the advantage, you have to understand, again, back in '86, if you make that movie today, every kid, when they're turning the camera, is on their phone. And they're tweeting from the set, and they're showing all this stuff, and they're not in their characters, they're not watching what's going on, they're not part of this big thing. And Alex did it before. We were part of something that was getting bigger and bigger and created, and you had, input. But that's really impossible today, because while we had to wait, or Michael Chapman had to have the perfect rise for that to come, today that could be digitally altered anyway, and that anyone wanted, but that wasn't the case then. The light had to be perfect, we had to figure this out. Oh, we just saw that wire, you couldn't erase it, you have to reshoot that. And you have to find that way. So the elements created a sort of an expectation, like the red light's on and you bring your best game. And that was very good to have at that early age.
Did you have to extend your shoot times? Did you go over budget?
No.
No? Okay.
But it was a long shoot. And it was a good shoot.